Hi, I'm Sharaad Kuttan and welcome to Let's Talk, the show that brings you the most important conversations in art, culture and ideas. And today I'm here at the Gerak Budaya bookstore in Petaling Jaya with this book, and this is going to be the subject of my conversation today with Lim Soon Heng. He's the writer, and Tang Yeok Khang, who is the illustrator of the book. They are both here to tell us a little bit more about the magic that went into this beautifully illustrated, wonderfully told story with the title The Hen-Made Tale. Thank you guys for being here. It's very exciting for me because, I actually don't know much about children's books, so it's a real challenge for me to think about how and what really goes into considerations of making something magical for children as an experience of reading. So let's begin with you, Soon Heng. You're both the writer of this book, but you also have a life as a theatre practitioner, and of course we're all friends and we worked in radio together, so you have and understand the life of media. So we'll begin with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how is it that you came to decide to write a book, as it were?
Well, this book actually started quite a while ago, Sharaad, 1996, around that point in time when I first got back from the United States. And at that point in time, I think I must have been thinking about Margaret Atwood's A Hen-Made Tale. And so I think a thought just occurred, and then it just kind of over time percolated and then became this story. But even then I took it to a publisher and they wanted to make it into a workbook. I wasn't interested, so it just sat for a while. And over time, this is the product. What do I know about children? Very little, except for I was a school teacher. I taught children a little bit older than this target group. But we have been performing as KL Shakespeare players to children quite young, sometimes as young as 4 years old, up through 12. And so that part of it maybe has influenced the storytelling in this one.
Okay, that's interesting. So maybe a bit of theatricality in the storytelling. Yeok Khang, you have a life as a visual artist,
yes,
as an illustrator. You told me that you also work with museums and design and such. You come into the story of the production of this book much later, right? So if it started in 1996, you must have been a wee lad. I don't know how old you were in 1996. Now you're a father of three. Tell us about why you chose to participate in this project that Soon Heng sort of pitched.
Okay. In fact, this project is introduced by my friend, Bruce Head. Yeah, he's an Australian working as an interior designer. Yeah, and last time I used to be his interior illustrator. Yeah, and he found that, hey, I'm changing my path more into fine arts now. Yeah, so he tried to introduce some projects that could be more interesting. Yeah. So after I look at these jobs from Soon Heng, I think it's quite interesting and challenging. Yeah, because this is my second children illustrated book.
Okay, and it's beautiful. Before we get into the subject matter and the images, Yeok Khang, you're from Bukit Matajam, and Soon Heng, you live around these parts, and I understand that this is actually the first time that you've met, which
yes.
Today is the first time you've met. The book is already published. It's available at Gerak Budaya here at this bookstore. I do want to ask you, how is it possible to collaborate, on something like a book? Soon Heng, tell us, how did that process shape up?
Are we allowed to mention brand names?
Of course we are allowed to mention anything that's true.
Zoom. Yeah, so we met on Zoom all the time. He will draw, send his work to me, and I look, and then we comment, and then we'll meet online and then discuss. That's how it all happened.
So okay. So I understand, technology has made a lot of communications quite simple, right? And then perhaps on the surface level, but I'm talking about in your mind's eye as a writer, you must conjure up images, right? As you think of the story. Where were you drawing from in terms of the images, and how did you communicate that or to Yeok Khang, and what was the conversation like?
You know, well, I have my own images. They were not very, not very precise, because I'm still very much working with words, and I like the sound of words, and they drive me. But in 2020, we took this same story and adapted it into an online storytelling with images drawn by Ken Lee, my artistic director. Now his style, I think I've sent a copy to you. It's more like kind of flatter and more comic in its nature. So when he did that, it worked. So by the time it came to finding an illustrator, I just wanted something a little bit more complicated, but I didn't want to control everything beyond the story. So when Tang and I hooked up together, I basically said, look, this is my story. You draw based on what you think. And because he already sent me a sample, when I made a call for illustrators, most just send their portfolio, said, look at what I've done. What he did, though, was quite different. He drew me something from the synopsis I gave. And I looked at it, and I chuckled. So, after that, I said, go to.
Okay, so you had a winning strategy there. But so I want to ask you, when you read the synopsis and you thought of the images, clearly it's a great way of demonstrating your sense of the story, right? Well, what were you drawing from? Because when I think about chickens, I think chickens are everywhere. You know, they're product labels, they're you know, characters in popular culture now. You know, more so than I think most animals, I would imagine. But what were you thinking? Were you struggling with, you know, creating something that was unique in illustrating this book?
Actually, I had my experience working with a chicken image about, I think, 20 years ago when I was in Form 6. At that time, I participated in what they call is a competition. And our team is to have those crossbreeding chicken. So we study from the farm, take picture, every kind of different chicken, yeah, in my friend's farm. Yeah.
Okay, so you had already some sort of
some
chicken cooking in your brain.
in my brain, right.
Okay.
And then after I read Soon Heng's story, I think that I must add in some elements of humor. Yeah, right. So I put it, and then I think that things strike his mind as well.
Okay, so humor is very interesting because, and I'm going to refer again to the title of the book, which is the Hen-Made Tale, which of course is a kind of play on Margaret Atwood's Hen-Made Tale, and it's very adult, and it's, you know, Atwood's book is a dark and rather troubling story of the future, right? And when you chuckled when you saw Khang's illustration, was it your adult mind? Was it your inner child?
Well, the synopsis I sent did have humor in it, because what I wrote to them, I said, well, this is a story, I have to tell them a bit of the story. It's a story about chicken wanting a day off. And one of the hens said that, you know, we all have to do it together, or we will have to hang separately or be fried separately. And in the original, I mentioned brand names like, will we become spicy or original recipe or ayam masak, all that kind of stuff. So there was humor already. So when people just pointed to their drawings, okay, but I don't know. But when he came with his chicken, there was just the look of it, you know, was humorous. It just worked with me. And I did mention to him that I want his illustrations to tell a complementary story, that they don't have to tell exactly what the words are saying. Otherwise, in a way, you know, it's not quite so useful.
Right, so it's another layer. Right?
Yeah.
Another layer.
So does that put a lot of burden on you, Khang, as an illustrator, to kind of further the story, to take it a little, so that the images are, as you say, a counterpoint or an addition to, a value add to the story, and not simply an illustration of the action of the text?
I like this kind of collaboration, you know. Yeah, because I can have my freedom. Yeah, so I can put really my thought into my works. Yeah, Yeah, this is what every artist looking for, I think.
Right. So here's some of these sketches. Very quickly, you know, a lot of them look like, well, kind of real chicken. So how do you get real chicken? Well, this one doesn't because it looks like it has goggles. So this chicken who seems to be knitting. So
knitting.
chickens don't normally knit. So I can see that this is slightly, you know, in the realm of the imaginary. But how do you balance? Because a lot of your chickens anatomically look like chicken, right? They look kind of on the real side of chicken.
Right.
How do you find a balance? What is it that you think of when you try to find the right image for the chicken?
Normally I search for those, there's a compilation of different chicken from different country. Yeah, I try to look at it and try to imagine, what kind of outlook and their personality. Yeah, so that I can really blend into some character. Yeah. So that's a method we call it personification. Yeah.
Okay. So you were happy?
Very happy because my words kind of would sometimes just describe the petite chicken, petite hen with a red collar. But he did something quite different with, and suddenly when I look at the pictures, the illustrations, I have a much clearer image of the personality. You know, not just the petite hen with a red collar. And that has really helped in trying to think about writing this into a script, which I've already started, and now talking to a composer, and this is what we both agreed on, that the illustrations help create characters, not just hens or egg-laying hens.
Right, and you're saying you're taking this further into a musical?
We'll try.
Okay,
yeah. It's a work in progress.
It's a work in progress. Wonderful. I mean, coming back to the fact that, you know, Khang, that you have 3 children, when you did this, were you thinking your audience was actually Lim Soon Heng, Mr. I'm slightly above 60 now, you know, but looking much younger, as opposed to your children? I mean, did you test it out on your children? Say, did you?
Yeah, I saw them this illustration, and they really like it. Yeah, because they like the way. But they have a question to ask me. They said, "Hey, how come this chicken can like doing knitting?" Yeah, and they have a lot of questions in their mind. I think that's good. Yeah, because for children, when they look at the books, they have to we have to activate their imagination. Yeah,
right, absolutely. And I think kids, if I can remember correctly about my own childhood, is that kids like the improbable, the unusual, the kind of slightly weird. I think that does make them chuckle. Okay, we're going to take a short break. I'm speaking to Lim Soon Heng and Tang Yeok Khang, writer and illustrator of this wonderful book. We'll stay tuned to Let's Talk. Hi, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm Sharaad Kuttan, with me Lim Soon Heng and Tang Yeok Khang, who are involved in this beautiful little book, The Hen-Made Tale, here at the Sharaad Kuttan bookstore in Petaling Jaya. We're surrounded by books, and I think, you know, in many ways, books are shelved with their spine, so you see the text, you rarely see the front image on many of the books. But those images are very powerful. I mean, I think people pick up books because sometimes of the cover design, and this cover actually in many ways you know, gives you a sense of what's to come in terms of both the...
You want to show the very last page, the inside cover? Because it's so beautiful.
Okay, there we have it. Okay, wonderful. So now I'm going to begin with you again, asking you, what is the story? You said about a chicken wanting the day off. Now,
yeah.
Okay, so is this a kind of a dark social critique? Is there something about industrialized, you know, poultry farming that you're kind of working against?
Well, you know, chicken must lay eggs. I mean, egg-laying hens must lay their eggs. They cannot say, I don't want to lay. It's biologically impossible, you know. So a lot of things just go out the window. The reality of things just go out the window. When I wrote it, I think Margaret Atwood was at the back of my mind, but at the same time, I was just having fun with this storytelling. And I was kind of telling somebody, you know, when I'm swimming, I count the number of times I go up and down, but I get so bored also. So I run things through my mind and like run lines through my mind and say, okay, how does this word sound? And blah, 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 and I say the word in the word. So this is how the story evolved. Did I intend it to be a dark social commentary? I don't think I really did, at least not consciously.
Okay, but you wanted to write a story for children.
Yeah.
As opposed to adults. And I know there are quite a number of people who write for children but also write for adults, and they're very, very different in terms of their style. Was it something that was hard to get right? Because children, I too don't know much about children, but the children maybe require something different to draw them in.
Yeah, I mean the whole notion of animals being able to talk and have ideas and suggesting things. I think children like that. They fantasize about this.
All the way since Aesop fables, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And especially when it's about having a day off, I think again, yeah, children understand we go to school only, you know, before it was like 5.5 days. Now we're going to school only 5 days. So yeah, they appreciate having a day off. So I don't think it's so far from their imagination that this story can happen. But for adults, I think because I'm adult, maybe that seeped into, and it's also a story about work, you know, and whether work is a blessing or a work is a curse. And having written my thesis on Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, there's a part in the story where he talks about how work can be a blessing because we are so busy that we don't have to deal with existential questions. We don't have to worry about the natives' politically incorrect word on the shore. So, you know, yeah, so this story has that part of it, you know, work, that's all we do. And just like the pandemic, like everybody says, the pandemic has caused people to think about, you know, resigning from work. And it's happened, but now they say maybe that's the big regret that's going to take place next. So that's what...
The big resign and followed by the big regret. Okay.
Yeah.
Kang, you have kids, right? So again, you said earlier that you tested it out on your children. They did have some questions, hard questions, as any child must have for their father. You know, ask your fathers tough questions. What appeals to them when you give them or buy books for them? You know, or do they want pictures? Do they listen to words? What are your kids like?
More of my books I bought from them with picture. Yeah, they prefer picture. Yeah, because from picture they can study a lot of things. Yeah, more than those words can explain.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I have the opposite feeling. Sometimes I think words actually just multiply the possibilities. Images. Could you, okay, let's put as a question to you, Kang, could this story have been told purely in pictures? And I ask that because I think of the work of artist illustrator Sean Lee, I think he's a Malaysian but based in
Perth.
In Perth, right? And he's got one work that's entirely images, there's no text at all, but it tells an amazing story. Could this have been told simply through images?
For this work, it's kind of a collaboration. If we really do it in the picture, that will become. I think we are missing something. Yeah. Only for these books. Yeah, but I think for the other books, says if you really works on images only, yeah, that is really possible. Yeah, you know, because for me, words is actually the other way of expressing the real world. And for the real world, images is more look like the real world.
Okay, so yeah, what do you think, Sunan? No, for me, words, for me, still words are here and then to the brain. You know, the visual, of course, is through the eyes, and therefore, since it's going through the ear for me, even though when I read silently, I still hear words. You know, and So I love the sound of words. I love how the texture and all that. But for me, that's the sad part, that some things got cut out. Because when I had the chicken kind of talking, they said, and then there's a cock here, a cock there, a cock everywhere. But all those had to go.
Why did they have to go?
Editorial decision because we had to keep it to a certain number of pages for printing. So a lot of things like this, which it's not the perfect book. It's not the book that I had imagined in its entirety. But, some sacrifices.
So the balance between text and images, what your editors were concerned about.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, so in sort of thinking about children again, I want to just kind of remain on children. Kang, what do you think kids will get out of this book? I mean, if you're going to recommend this to a parent and say, good book to read for your children, is it a story that comes with a lesson at the end of it? Because I think sometimes we tell children's stories because there's a moral lesson or there's some ethical issue that we want the kids to understand.
Yeah.
What is it?
In fact, not really always we have to tell something very clearly, from one expression, Yeah, because I think it's more important to let them read the books and how this book generate their new ideas or new thinking, new thoughts. Yeah, that's more important for me.
Right.
Yeah. Like my kids is actually homeschooling now.
Oh,
during this pandemic time, and we have changed our lifestyle as well. Yeah, now they continue to have a homeschooling.
Okay, so you're father teacher, mother teacher. That's wonderful. I'm looking off screen to your wife.
But Sharaad, adding to that, you are exactly right though. We have worked with the Ministry of Education in the sense that they have authorized our going into schools to do storytelling. We did one in 2020, and then we did 4 in 2021, and we're supposed to carry on this year. And every time we submit a proposal that we just titles of stories, they say, what's the moral? So this concern for moral rightness of things is so pervasive in adult culture or adult teacherly culture that we sometimes, I find it just limits. Once you say it, then that's all they will see, I think.
Yeah.
So how do you, okay, so we have about a minute, but can we open the question of ambiguity? Is that what you were striving for? What is it that you want children to get out of this book, Soon Heng?
First, enjoy reading that. Oh, it's so funny because he has a drawing of a rooster crowing. I know how rooster crows do, but this rooster looks like Elvis Presley with a microphone. So that's for me, it's so funny. Yeah. So first, enjoy it, read it, and maybe pay attention. I would like them to read it aloud because words, the sound of words, you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the sound of words.
Okay, wonderful. And I do enjoy the sound, and you do it. I hope the next generation learns to read and learns to appreciate the visual image as well. Thank you guys for being on the show. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, Sharaad.
Thank you.
That's all we have for Let's Talk this week. I've been speaking to Lim Soon Heng and Tang Yeok Khang, both involved in the production of this beautiful book, The Hen-Made Tale, Soon Heng being the writer and Khang being the illustrator. Available at Gerak Budaya Bookstore in Petaling Jaya. That's all we have for you on Let's Talk this week. Join me next week. I'm Sharaad Kuttan, only for Astro AWANI.